Good morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to have a look at this rainy city scene. So come along and we'll paint this together step by step. So let's get going. So just briefly, this is a subscriber's suggestion painting. A few of you have asked for a rainy street scene and a few of you have asked for a city scene. So I've put them together. It's not too difficult, nice and loose, and plenty of opportunity for you to put your own interpretation on it. So let's get going. Okay, quickly run through my materials today. My watercolour paper is some Arch Rough, 300 pound. My brushes are my large mop, my number 12 round, my 3/4 inch flat, and my number 3 rigger. My paints in my beautifully clean palette are my normal 3 primaries, cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, cadmium yellow. I'm also going to be using a touch of yellow ochre, Payne's grey, and some cerulean blue. Keep the drawing simple. We can let the brush do most of the work. What will help you to draw this is to establish where the vanishing point is. This is a classic one-point perspective with all the parallel lines converging to a vanishing point somewhere about there. And be careful with scale. Make sure the proportions of the figures match the size of the cars they're standing alongside. I have perhaps drawn this car a little bit too big, but I'll fix that at the painting stage. Off we go. With my large mop, I'm just totally wetting the paper with clean water. Now with my flat brush, I'm painting in vertically some cobalt blue, making sure that you keep the centre area here white. Now just a little touch of Payne's grey. And a light touch of yellow ochre. For this building in the distance, Payne's grey again, straight into the wet to give this lovely misty effect. And also a little bit of detail here on the side. A little yellow ochre here, and as you can see, some of the areas are beginning to dry, giving me this lovely dry brush effect. Wait for it to totally dry, then with a dark wash of Payne's grey and diluting the mix as we move down the pavement. Now with a damp brush and a piece of tissue, I'm lifting out some of the paint to retrieve some of the lighter tones. Payne's grey again for a little more detail. The flat brush is ideal for this, but try and keep the strokes nice and loose and wobbly. More quick strokes to get that nice dry brush effect. All of this is still in Payne's Grey. Think about your foreshortening here. These beams will get closer together as they move to the distance. Oops, apologies here. I must have had a senior moment and not pressed the record button hard enough and missed this section here on the right. I'm looking around for someone to blame, but there's no one, so let's move on, shall we? Again, all this is painted in Payne's Grey with just a touch of yellow ochre in the centre section. A few darker details and lighter tones here in the distance. Okay, here is a mix of cadmium yellow with just a touch of alizarin crimson, and I'm just dropping in here to suggest a few of these lit windows. Just building up some more quick detail with my Payne's Grey. Now, a very strong mix here for the cars. Now, we're not worried about what model of Ford this is, just some simple blocky shapes. Now for the people. Keep them simple. I'm not being tempted to use a smaller brush. Using my number 12 helps me to paint them in a few quick strokes, giving them much more of a natural, unlaboured feel. Now with my rigger and a light tint of Payne's Grey, I'm painting in the streetlights. This is a mix of Payne's Grey and Cobalt Blue. I'm painting in the legs, and then with a darker mix of grey, I'm putting in the rest of the figure, and I'm quite happy for the colours to blend. Now with some cerulean blue, just for a few details, and of course the umbrella. Some fleshy tones here for the faces. No need for any more detail than that. Splatting in some texture now, just in the foreground of the pavement. Then I can also dab out any unwanted splats. When totally dry, re-wet with clean water the areas under the figures and the cars. Let the water soak into the paper just for a few moments. Then, with a dark Payne's Grey wash, paint in a blob underneath the cars and all the figures. Then, slowly tilt your board and let the paint run down to create a lovely soft reflection. You can do this a couple of times if you need to. Touch of yellow ochre to warm up the buildings a little. And a little diluted cobalt blue in the foreground. Then Payne's Grey again for some light ripple effects. Magic scalpel time, just scratch out a few highlights. Now with a white pastel pencil, you can also use some white gouache, a few highlights on the couple here, and some random flicks here and there. Now for some nice thick Payne's Grey for some dry brush texture. Okay, here's a surprise, a fairly inexpensive set of soft pastels. They work brilliantly well with watercolour. With a yellow, a few dots to suggest some lights in the windows. You can then blur the bottoms with your finger. For the car tail lights, start with an orange. Then a red. Orange again, and then blur the colour vertically with your finger. Perhaps a little more yellow, and some blue highlights in the umbrella. Scalpel again for some light on the pavement. Now we're in danger of overworking it again, so let's call it done. Finally, a good bit of cropping with a mount can also make a big difference to your final composition. So coming up now are just a few paintings that I've done using a lot of the techniques that we've learnt today. So please have a look. So I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. If you have, please do all the usuals, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Love to hear from you. Love to know how you've got on. So for now, see you all again soon. Take care. Bye now.